Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept the humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Krishna Prabhupada. All glories to our revered speaker for today, His Grace SALIKA Prabhu. And all glories to the assembled Vaishnava devotees. Well, SALIKA Prabhu needs no introduction. And as he usually does, our revered speaker who was scheduled is not here at the moment. So His Grace has offered to step in to serve. So, as usual, Prabhuji, we can thank you enough, and we may put the verse on the screen, and then you may start speaking. Hare Krishna, and thank you.
Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritam Narayachaivam Naruttamam Devi Sarasvati Vyasam Tatujayam Diraye Nasta Praishu Abhadrishu Nitya Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Uttaman Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of God and Narayana, unto Narayana, which is the foremost human being. Unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of land and touch, yesterday the author by regular attendance in classes in Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest. By regular attendance in classes in Srimad Bhagavatam, by a of last service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of God, which praise transcendental song is established as an irrevocable fact. So we're reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam. We are reading third canto, Vidura's talk with Maitreya, canto 3, chapter 5. Today we are reading text number 11. Kastripnuyatritapad vidana sasre shiva skirube idyamanahat yakarna nadim purushasyayato bhava pradam giharatim chinati kastripunuyatritapado vidana Satsre Shiva Suribis Idyamanaat Yat Karna Nadim Purusha Syayato Bhavat Pradam Ge Aratim Chinati Kastri Nuyatrita Padobitnat Satsre Shiva Surabi Idyamanaat Yakarna Nadim Purusasyayato Bhava Pradam Geharatim Chinati. Word for word translation. Ka, who is that man? Trip, Noyat, that can be satisfied. Tirita Pada, whose lotus feet are all the places of pilgrimage. Abid Anat, from the talks of Satreshu in human society. Va, one who is Suribi by great devotees. Idyamanat, one who is so worshipped. Ya, who, Karnanadim, in the holes of the ears. Purusasya of Iman Yata entering. Bhava Bradam, that which awards birth and death. Keharatim, family affection. Chinati is cut off. Translation and purport by Divine Grace, Abai Charanara Vindisi Bhakti Vedanta Swami. Patita Pavan Jaga Guru Seva Doshila Prabhu Ki Jai. No human society can be satisfied without hearing sufficient talk of the Lord, whose lotus feet are the sum total of all places of pilgrimage, and who is worshipped by great sages and devotees. Such topics can cut off one's bondage to family affection simply by entering the homes of one's ears. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Krishna Katha is so powerful that simply by entering into the person's ears, it can at once give deliverance from the bondage of family affection. Family affection is an illusory manifestation of the external energy, and it is the only impetus for all mundane activities. As long as there is mundane activity and the mind is absorbed in such engagement, one has to undergo the repetition of birth and death in the current material science. People are most influenced by the modes of ignorance, and some are influenced by the passion mode of material nature. And under the spell of these two modes, a living being is actuated by the material conception of life. The mundane qualities do not allow a living entity to understand its real position. The qualities of both ignorance and passion strongly bind one to the illusory bodily conception of the self. The best among the fools who are thus deluded are those who engage in altruistic activities under the spell of the material modes of passion. Bhagavad Gita, which is direct Krishna Katha, gives humanity the elementary lessons that the body is perishable and that the consciousness which is spread throughout the body is imperishable. The conscious being, the imperishable self, is eternally existent and cannot be killed under any circumstances, even after the dissolution of the body. Anyone who misunderstands this perishable body to be the self and who works for it in the name of sociology, politics, philanthropy, altruism, nationalism, or internationalism under the false plea of the bodily conception of life is certainly a fool and does not know the implications of reality and unreality. Some of them are above the modes of ignorance and passion and are situated in the mode of goodness. But mundane goodness cannot understand the real nature of the self as a person. The impersonal conception of the self, as distinct from the body, keeps them in the modes of goodness within the material nature. And unless they are attracted by Krishna Katha, they will never be liberated from the bondage of material existence. Krishna Katha is the only remedy for all people of the world because it can situate one in pure consciousness of the self and liberate one from material bondage. To preach Krishna Katha all over the world, as recommended by Lord Chaitanya, is the greatest missionary activity. And all sensible men and women of the world may join in this great movement, started by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Om Gyanam Timirandasya Gyanam Gyanam Shalakaya Shaksho Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Vayam Rupam Kadamaya Dadati Swampadantikam Bandhyam Sri Guru Sri Yutta Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagnam Raghunatam Vitam Saajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijanam Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padasagana Lalita Sri Vishaka Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Shuti Devi Pranamami Narivi Mokam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Lagayate Girim Yatkripat Tam Aham Vande Sri Guru Dinatarinam Vanchakarpataru Vyascha Kripa Sundubhyas Ivascha Patitanam Pavajnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. So the verse once again says, who in human society can be satisfied without hearing sufficient talk of the Lord, whose lotus feet are the sum total of all places of pilgrimage, and who is worshipped by great sages and devotees. Such topics can cut off one's bondage to family affection simply by entering the holes of one's ears. Hare Krishna. So, once again, we thank all of the devotees for joining the Bhagavatam class today. And then we continue the discussion on the third canto, chapter 5 of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the discussions between Vidura and Maitreya Rishi. And in this verse, the glories of Krishna Katha is being emphasized. And in a question format, a kind of what could be described in devotional understanding as a kind of a rhetoric question. Because when we look at all of the Vedic literatures, even the Western philosophical literatures, all asserting that there is no satiation anywhere other than the topics, the activities, the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when this question comes up, like, who in human society can be satisfied? Not only in human society, even among the devas, in the three worlds, all revealed scriptures have established the fact that there is nothing like satiation for any living entity in whatever species of life they belong to, except the shelter of the Supreme Lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But interestingly, Prabhupada started the purport by giving a kind of a very, very interesting subject matter to discuss. The purport started by Srila Prabhupada talking about the Krishna Katha, which is the topic of the text. That this Krishna Katha is so powerful that simply by entering into a person's ear, it can at once give deliverance from the bondage of family affection. So now the question is that, why should there be freedom from the family attraction? Because Krishna himself demonstrated in his Leela so much of affection from his family members. So someone could ask, so why have we been asked, why should we endeavor on a journey that brings about separation or freedom from family affections. Krishna's affection to his mother, Yasoda, Mother Devaki, was the basis why he had to go ahead to Mathura to kill Kamsa and to deliver his mother. So why is this verse? Why we are being told that family affection should be cut? What is the need for that? Because family affection is a natural thing, and then relationship cannot be cut off. And when we look critically at our scriptures, there is nowhere in all of the literatures that we have that there is no. In fact, Krishna himself, in his Leela, demonstrated affection to his family members. So we have been asked to cut off family affection. When we look at the discussion in the Bhagavad Gita, the whole subject of matter of Bhagavad Gita was Arjuna asking the questions based on his family affection. When we all understand the story of the Mahabharata to the point where the battlefield of Kurukshetra, it's a whole lot of story. But at that point, when the war was inevitable, the cause of the whole of the Bhagavad Gita discourse was based on this subject matter of family affection. So Arjuna was talking to Krishna. He said, please, Lord Krishna, Madhusudan, take me into the middle of the battlefield. Let me look at, I want to see in Bhagavad Gita chapter 1, text 1 to from text number 21 to 23. Krishna was telling Arjuna, he said, "O infallible one, please, I want you to draw my chariot between the two armies so that I may see those present there who desire to fight and with whom I must contend in this great trial of arms." He said, I want to see those who have come here to fight, wishing to please the evil-minded son of this Dhritarashtra. So the beginning of all of the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna, which is the Bhagavad Gita, which Prabhupada nicely referenced in this purport, is that Arjuna was speaking, why should I kill my family members? And the whole of the Bhagavad Gita, from text 32, 36 downward, Arjuna was lamenting. The whole topic was about the family relationships. And here we have been asked to cut it. So what is it? So Krishna started that, interestingly, in the purport to Bhagavad Gita chapter 13, text 12 downward, Prabhupada was 8 to 12. Prabhupada, in one of the purports, he explains that family affections is not something that should be naturally cut off. But if they are unfavorable to hearing Krishna Katha, then they should be separated. So the topic here, the point here is not family separation, it's not cutting off from family affection. The major point in this text is not about freedom from family affection. It is interesting that Prabhupada started by emphasizing that as long as there is, but Prabhupada uses a word, a mundane activity, and the mind is absorbed in such engagement, one has to undergo the repetition of birth and death. So family affection is not the issue, but when they are separated. And this is the whole essence of what Krishna taught in the Bhagavad Gita. When we look from the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna surrendered, after so much of philosophy, Arjuna surrendered to Krishna. Verse 7 of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, he told that Krishna, I'm confused, I don't even know what to do. Because every human being is faced with this kind of dilemma. What is the duty? What is my dharma? Here in this verse, we have been told that we should hear Krishna Katha so that we can be separate, we can be free from the bondage of family affection. But family affection, we know, cannot be separated. So then what to do? What do we do? So what is meant here is being explained to Arjuna that the foundation, like Prabhupada put it in the purport, the ABC of family affection can only be understood when one comes to the platform of the self. This understanding of the self is what brings about real understanding of what family affection is all about. So the Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna asked Krishna, what is to be done? I'm confused now. I don't know what to be done. Should I don't want to fight, because if I fight, I will kill my family members. And it is better for me to sit down, let them shoot me and kill me. And if they refuse to, I'll prefer to beg. And these are the lamentations of Arjuna. Arjuna was lamenting seriously because of this duty. So Krishna gave Arjuna, in the chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna start talking about karma, action and reaction. And it started by the very important subject matter, which Prabhupada is enlightening in this text. Teinos mi yata de he kaumaram yovanam jara, that the understanding of the duty in relations to our body, our existence, cannot be understood unless the living entity comes to its original state of consciousness. And what is that original state of consciousness? To come to the realization of the self as different from the physical body. As long as one identifies with the body, the clarity about the duty in relations to any relationship can never be understood. So the beginning of ABC, because hearing about Krishna Katha is such a very highly advanced, elaborate subject matter. And who can understand the importance of it unless one who has arisen above? So Krishna told Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, first and foremost, come to the platform of the self. When you come to the platform of the self, then you will understand. What will Arjuna understand? Krishna told Arjuna, when you understand, when you come to the platform of the self, when we come to realize that the self is not the physical body, neither the extensions of the body in the form of brother, sister, uncle, mother, father, and all of that. And so that's what Krishna was saying in Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 text number 14, when he says the mantras pastors to count ya, titosna suka dukada, agama paino, nitias, tams titikshwa bharata. That my dear Arjuna, the son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness, distress, their disappearance in due course, they are just like appearance and disappearance of winter, summer season. They arise from sense perception, O son of Bharat. So Krishna told Arjuna, you should tolerate without being disturbed. So Krishna was giving this philosophy to Arjuna. And then it tells Arjuna, you need to understand this. Then when you understand this, then the understanding of duty can be understood. And what does Krishna tell Arjuna specifically? That you have the right to do your duty. Your duty is that you are a warrior. So your duty is to fight. So here, particularly, the verse is telling us that to be able to release, to hear, for Krishna Katha to enter into the ears, one must be free from the bondage of family affections. But these family affections cannot be broken unless one understands the self. And to understand the self, one has to engage in duties which is completely free from the whole of Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna talked so many subjects. He talked about karma. He talked about karma yoga. First, action and the intricacies of action. Then he told Arjuna, action in Krishna consciousness, that action should be performed in Krishna consciousness. Then one becomes free from the bondage of action if actions are performed in Krishna consciousness. Then when Krishna told Arjuna, he was telling Arjuna in chapter 4 of the Bhagavad Gita, that this formula I'm giving to you is not just some speculative knowledge. This same knowledge, I've spoken it to the sun god. This was 120 million years ago. That by this act of karma yoga or action in Krishna consciousness, you become free. Of course, Arjuna was asking Krishna, my dear Krishna, for me and you, we are about the same age. So how is it then possible that you have spoken this same knowledge to Vishwas 120 million years ago? That's how this is possible. And Krishna told Arjuna, the same subject matter that he started with. There is no birth, there is no death. We've only changed bodies, many bodies. You and I, we've come so many appearances. You have forgotten because you are changing your body. But I do not change your body, my body. So Krishna educates Arjuna on the subject matter of the self, which is what Prabhupada is emphasizing in the purport. That the qualities of both ignorant, the mundane qualities do not allow a living entity to understand its real position. The qualities of both ignorance and passion strongly bind one to the illusory bodily conception of the self. As long as the living entity is not free from the bodily conception of life, as one does not rise above the conception of I am, boy, girl, man, woman, Nigerian, English, white, brown, clarity of knowledge of the Supreme cannot be understood. It is the identification with the material body that makes the living entity in their various modes of material nature to become attached to family relations. And Srila Prabhupada gave a very interesting example of what is going on in the material world. And he's talking about the three modes. Earlier in this chapter, we've heard about how in the conversation between Uddhava and Maitreya, talking about the three modes of material nature and how it influences everything within the material world. So Prabhupada is explaining in that context here that the best among the fools who are thus deluded are those who engage in altruistic activities under the spell of material modes of passion. So such persons cannot understand Krishna Katha and its importance. The importance of hearing about Krishna, his pastimes, his glories, his name, cannot be understood unless one rises above the three modes of material nature. Although Krishna Katha gives humanity the elementary lesson that the body is perishable and that the consciousness which is spread throughout the body is imperishable, the conscious being, the imperishable self, is eternally existent and cannot be killed under any circumstances, even after the dissolution of the body. So Prabhupada explained that anyone who misunderstands this perishable body to be the self and who works for it in the name of any circumstances, whether as a father, mother, politicians, philanthropists, altruism, international, and all of that, as long as one does not free himself from this misidentification of the self to be the external coverage in the form of the body, in whatever form it is, of the 8,400,000 species of life, as long as one is under this false bodily conception of life, such a person is certainly a fool, number one, like Papa said. The reality and unreality cannot be understood by someone who is on this level of consciousness. So Srila Prabhupada is saying here that those who are materialists sometimes when influenced by the mode of material goodness, they rise above passion and ignorance, which is simply darkness, bondage, which award only repeated birth and death. But when someone becomes a little bit advanced, it comes to the platform of good mode of goodness, it does some morally good activities. But such activities still bind such a person, because one cannot remain in goodness in the material world because of the unsatiated nature of material nature. The material nature itself is chanchala, is flickering. There is no consistency. So one cannot even remain in the mode of goodness. One has to rise above the material modes, from ignorance to passion, goodness, and to transcendental goodness, where one can be able to understand the self as different from this body. Then only and only then one can appreciate and understand the beauty, the importance of the Krishna Kata. And this is the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is to spread this Krishna Kata, or topics about Krishna, which awards the living entity freedom from the bondage of material existence to repeated birth and death. But as long as one has not come to this platform of the self, Krishna Kata, topics about Krishna, his pastimes and his activities cannot be attracted. Krishna has said in the Bhagavad Gita that Jamma Kamma Cham Edivyam Evam Yo Veti Tatwata. Tatwa Dea Puna Jamma Naitima Meti Sojuna. That one who understands the transcendental nature of my activities and appearance, when they quit this material body, when they quit this material life, they simply come back to me because they've attained the ultimate goal of the self. But this is not possible until and when one rises above the condition of material existence, which is based on the bodily identification. So the purpose to this text basically is talking about the glories of the chanting, the hearing of topics about Krishna. But these topics about Krishna, which delivers the living entity from the mundane conditioning of life, can only be attained, or is only attainable, when one comes to the platform of the self. I'm Brahmasmi. And this is the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And that is why Krishna consciousness was brought to the Western world by Srila Prabhupada. And it is recommended that anyone who is considered to be a follower of Krishna consciousness movement must spread this mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And recently we were celebrating the Gita Jayanti, or the Prabhupada described it here as the preliminary study of Krishna Kata, the direct spoken Kata, or topics of Krishna by Krishna himself in the Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna Kata is said here to be the remedy for all people of the world, because it has the ability, it has the affinity to situate one in the pure consciousness of the self. And it has the capacity, it has the potency to liberate one from material bondage. And when we're talking of material bondage here being discussed, it's not talking about affection to family in the context of a devotee relationship with his family member, because a devotee understands that Mamaikam so Jivalu, Ke, Jivabuta, Sanatana, that every living entity is fragmental part and parcel of Krishna. They are all part and parcel of Krishna. So therefore, one does not cease Krishna's manifestation as separate from Krishna. It sees only Krishna. And in such a person is free to act. The whole essence of Bhagavad Gita, like Lord Krishna taught so many topics in the Bhagavad Gita. He taught Karma Yoga, Karma, he talked about Dhyana Yoga, Gyan Yoga, but the culmination of everything is Bhakti, because in Bhakti, both renunciation and attachment is there. One renounces the desire to enjoy and for the enjoyment of Krishna. And that is why in the purport to that chapter 13, text number, Bhagavad Gita chapter 13, text number 8 to 12, Prabhupada said very directly that as for detachment from children, wife, and home, it is not meant that one should have no feeling for this. They are natural objects of affection. Only but when they are not favorable to spiritual progress, then one should not be attached to them. And Prabhupada further explained that the best process for making the home pleasant is Krishna consciousness. If one is in full Krishna consciousness, he can make his home very happy, because this process of Krishna consciousness is very easy. One only need to chant the holy name, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Then one gets liberated and goes back home, back to God. So when the purport of the text we are reading today is talking about freedom from the bondage of family affection, it does not mean that one should renounce his family members, because they are natural object of affection. As long as we are in this body, although the self, the living entity, is not this body, okay, you are opening the verse. If you go to, I think the paragraph is in about the 7 paragraphs where I'm quoting from. I think the 7th paragraph in the purport. That was where Prabhupada was talking as regards to detachment. So, yeah. Yeah, when you go down very well. You see, talking about knowledge here, go up, continue going. Steadiness means go up. Prabhupada is going to come. It's still continue. That's the 3rd paragraph. I think it's the 5th, 6th, or 7th paragraphs. Yeah, this is it. As for detachment from children, wife, and home, it is not meant that one should have no attraction, feelings for this. They are natural objects of affection. Yes, exactly. That is it. So, understanding this means that real human life begins when one comes to the platform of the self, when one understands himself as different from this material body. And that's what Krishna says. Our understanding of material and spirituality is filled when it based on the material understanding, based on our understanding of ourselves to be the body. Then there will always be a challenge, a problem. But when one comes to the spiritual platform, when one comes to the platform of spirituality, you understand that Krishna, and as he has said in the earlier part of the Bhagavad Gita, that everything, animate, inanimate, is all part and parcel of him. And that is why Krishna, when he told Arjuna about detachment, and when you read, probably let's go to chapter 18 of Bhagavad Gita, very text number 1. Krishna, chapter 18 of Bhagavad Gita, summarizes the whole of Bhagavad Gita from text number 1 to text number 2, 3. Arjuna was asking a very interesting question about renunciation. And then Krishna uses almost about 20 verses in fact, up to verse 43 of the Yeah. The conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, Arjun says, Almighty Armed One, I wish to understand the purpose of renunciation, Tyaga, and of the renounced order of life, Sannyasi, O killer of the Keshi, demon, master of the senses. Then Krishna started from this text, number 2. Up to text 40-something, Krishna kept on explaining the meaning of renunciation. The Supreme Personality said that the giving up of the activities that are based on material desire is what great learned men called the renounced order of life, sannyasi. And giving up the result of all activity is what the wise call renunciation, tyaga. Some learned men declare that all kinds of fruitive activities should be given up as faulty. Yet other sages maintain that acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance should never be abandoned, O best of the Bharata. Now hear my judgment about renunciation. O tiger among men, renunciation is declared in the scripture to be of 3 kinds. And Krishna starts giving the 3 modes of material nature here, which Prabhupada is explaining that purport. Act of sacrifice, charity, penance, and in this verse, from this verse down to text number 43, Krishna starts explaining the renunciation in the goodness, in passion, and ignorance. And from text number 49, let's go to text number 49 of this chapter. 43 to 49. And Krishna summarizes the topic subject. Let's go to 43. Yeah. So Krishna started giving them. To be fast, let's go to 49. I think 49 will give us what I really want to go forward a little bit more. Yeah, one who is self-controlled and unattached and who disregards all material enjoyment can obtain practice of renunciation, the highest perfect state of freedom from reaction. So all from that text number 2, Krishna was explaining renunciation on different modes. So from here, Krishna started from this 49 to 53. From 49 to 53, Krishna is explaining the conclusion of renunciation. And he says that one is self-controlled and unattached. One who disregards all material enjoyment can obtain by practice of renunciation the highest perfectional stage from reactions. And he said, O son of Kunti, learn from me how one who has achieved this perfection can attain the supreme perfectional stage, Brahma, the stage of highest knowledge, by attain in the way I shall now summarize. Then in 51 to 53, he says, which is where is some completion of the summarization. He says that being purified by his intelligence and controlling the mind with determination, giving up the objects of sense gratification, being freed from attachment and hatred, one who lives in a secluded place and who is little, who controls his body, mind, and power of speech, who is always in trance and who is detached, free from false ego, false strength, false pride, lost anger, and acceptance of material things, free from false proprietorship and peaceful. Such a person is certainly elevated to the position of self-realization. So this is where Krishna is talking about. And when one gets to this freedom of, to this position of self-realization, what happens? In text number 54, Krishna explains that Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Nasu Shati Nakang Shati Samasaveshu Bhukteshu. One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the supreme Brahma and becomes fully joyful. He never laments, he does not desire for to have anything, he is equally disposed towards every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. So this is the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna says here, this is the conclusion. All of the teachings Lord Krishna gave to Arjuna about the subject of the self, he concludes it there. So he continues from here now and he started talking about bhakti. And when he goes there, and let's go to 65, text number 65. So Krishna started talking about bhakti. All these verses he was talking about bhakti. And then it continues about the self. Then, yes, then it stop here. So then at 65, Krishna gave what he already gave in chapter 9 of Bhagavad Gita, which is the conclusion of all Arjuna's questions to the subject matter of duty. That is why Krishna is repeating the same verse here. There are 2 verses like that Krishna repeated. And here he's repeating the same verse he has said in 9:34. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you're my very dear friend. So Krishna told that this is the summary, this is the conclusion, that this freedom from family affection that he's talking about can only be achieved, is only attainable if one does this bhakti. Bhakti, always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer my homage to me. And when Krishna finished speaking all of this, then it comes to the 65, 66, which is said to be the conclusion of abandon of the rights of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. So that bondage, affection to family and bodily conception of life becomes negated simply by surrendering to Krishna in this way. He has said in text number 65. And how do we come to this? When we talk about surrender to Krishna, sometimes it's such ambiguous statement, and one wonders, how can one attain this? Krishna's already given the clue how to achieve that in devotional service. In text chapter 14, text number 26, Mamchayo Vyabicharina, Bhakti Yojana Sevati, Saguna Samati Atan, Ramabuyaya Kapati, that by practice of engaging ourselves in worshiping Krishna, in satisfying Krishna, then this instruction is given in 934 and 1865 becomes attainable by this process. Yes, one who engages in full devotional service, which he gave in that verse 65, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcend the modes of material nature, and that comes to the level of Brahman. So this is the way. So the freedom from bondage of affection to family and material entanglement is only possible only by process of bhakti, and that bhakti is attainable by mamana bhava bhakta mam yaji mam namaskuru. When one does this, one is on the platform of bhakti, and that platform of bhakti is easily attainable when one, by constant practice of this regulation that Krishna has given. So this is the conclusion. And then when one is on that platform, Krishna Kata becomes easily attractive to hearing. And when one successfully hears, then one becomes transcendent. One attains the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when one has come to this, he can understand what is being said in the verse that we are discussing today, where it is Audaba is discussing with Maitreya here, that no one can be satiated without hearing the sufficient talk about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But unless one comes to this platform, this subject matter is unattractive. And that is why you see, I was discussing with somebody this morning, and he was saying, how wonderful is this subject matter you are talking? Why is it that you don't have so many followers? Why is it that? Because I can imagine what you are saying now. I feel like staying here. I was speaking to the person, he was in his office. It was during the office hour, and he had so many work to do. And he was telling me, he said, Salika, you know what you are saying, I feel like continue hearing this, but I'm confused, I'm worried, I'm bewildered. How is it that people don't want to listen to this subject matter, something like this? Because why? They have not become free from the bondage to material family affection. So the family affection that is talked about here, that is condemnable, that is requested to be detached from, is attachment to family affection on the bodily concept of life. But when one comes to the spiritual concept of life, when one comes to the position of the self, affection to family, affection to members of one's related body becomes a means of transcendence, as we have read in chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita. It becomes a source of revelation. In other words, the gate that leads us to hell also leads us to heaven, depending on the level of the consciousness of the living entity. So I will stop here and give room for questions and comments and introspections about the topic matter. But in summary, that is what my understanding is of the verse that we're reading today. Thank you very much, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. His Grace Salika Prabhu. It's very interesting how Krishna answered Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, giving his opinion after giving the opinions of different great personalities. Well, dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, reflections you may want to ask or share, please indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to ask your question or share your reflections. Salika, Prabhu, I want to put the verse back on the screen, and you please help me answer this question. Krishna Katha, and you re-emphasized this, Krishna Katha is the only remedy for all people of the world because it can situate one in pure consciousness of the self and liberate one from material bondage. What is the difference between this statement and a statement like, I am the way, the truth, and the life, no one goeth to the Father except through me? Or, today, this path has been given to you by Allah, Islam, that whoever does not follow this path is doomed. What is the difference?
Thank you so much, Sadi, for bringing this up. The answer is in the question itself. If you look carefully at the sentence that you just read, in pure consciousness of the self is the key to all what is said in that sentence. The state of the consciousness is what differs. Generally, when the subject matter about spirituality or God realization is discussed, most often time people are in the bodily concept of life. And from the bodily concept of life, then they start seeing different faiths, different traditions, different duties. But the moment one rises beyond the bodily concept of life and comes to the spiritual concept of life, he understands the universality of God's instruction, whatever it may be. And that is what Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur tells us, that a bona fide devotee, when he goes into any tradition, whether it is Christian, call it Christianity, or it is called Hinduism, it is called whatever name, the moment is on, because it's on that platform, is seeing the same Krishna at all levels. In recent lecture, I was speaking to the student of the Federal College of Education, Nasarawa State, who are on a study visit to the temple, which comprises of Christian, Muslim, and different traditions. And so one student asked me a very interesting question. And he asked, he said, which is the oldest religion? I've been studying world religion from 100 levels to this is the final year. So I want to know, having read that there is so many religions, I've read so many religions now. Please do tell me, your explanation is very deep. Tell me, which is the oldest religion? So, and I asked him a question back like a typical Nigerian man. I said, what do you think is the oldest religion? So the teacher asked me, the teacher started laughing. So I said, stand up. So he stood up amidst the students. There were tens of students there. I said, stand up, come to the front. He came to the front. And I said, what is your name? He said, my name is Ibrahim. No, I think he said his name is Abraham or something like that. So he said, okay. I said, good. Abraham showed me your hand. He raised his hands up. I said, show me your head. He touches his head. I said, show me your stomach. Show me your legs. Okay, show me your body. And he touched, he said, this is my body. I said, where are you? And he started looking at himself. I said, no, I'm asking, where are you? He couldn't answer the question. I said, that is the answer to your question. Until and when you rise above the platform of me as my body, then you cannot understand which is the oldest religion. The oldest religion is Krishna conscious or God consciousness. And that Krishna consciousness has no beginning, neither does it have an end. That pure consciousness, that pure love of God, or that God consciousness that we talk about, which is what you reference from these various scriptures, they have no beginning, they have no end, because Krishna has no beginning, and the living entity being part and parcel of God has no beginning, has no end. So when you are looking for the oldest religion, you will never be able to track it. So someone asked Srila Prabhupada something similar to that question, and the Prabhupada said, you can't put a beginning to Krishna consciousness. So Krishna consciousness is eternal, and wherever a Krishna conscious person is, he sees that Krishna consciousness, whether it is in the form of a traditional worshiper or in the form of a Christian believer or a Hindu believer or a Muslim believer. The pure knowledge of the self is permeated, it's spread across all of these traditions. But one has to rise to the level of consciousness to be able to see it. It is just like buying gold. Everybody knows the name gold, but not everybody can identify what gold is. Gold is a material substance which is available in the world, but more than 3/4 of the world cannot tell you what is gold in real terms of it. When you carry 75% of the world together, they cannot identify gold. That is a material substance. So in the same way, what to talk about, subject matter of spirituality. So the pure consciousness that Prabhupada is referencing to here is talking about the pure Krishna consciousness. And this pure Krishna consciousness is manifested in every tradition in different forms. But it takes individuals' level of own elevation to the most one is elevated to that level of consciousness, to that degree is able to identify and see. And that is what Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur says, that when I go into other traditional worship center, I see my Lord manifesting in the different forms. So the summary is that God consciousness, pure consciousness, knowledge of the self is spread across all existence of Krishnas. In the purport, before that verse, section you are highlighting, Prabhupada says something in the purport. Prabhupada was related. Prabhupada said, Prabhupada was referencing that somewhere in the purport, that this, I'm trying to look at it. Proper reference that somewhere, mundane goodness and intellectual wonder bodies, and
the best among the fools.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I think I'm trying to. Yeah. Some of them are above the most of ignorance and passion and are situated in the mode of goodness, but mundane goodness is always contaminated by things of ignorance and passion. Mundane goodness can enlighten one that the body and the self are different. One in goodness is concerned with the self and not the body. But due to the being contaminated, those in the mundane bodies, mundane goodness cannot understand the real nature of the self as a person. And Papa was talking about reality and non-reality somewhere. I'm trying to look. Somewhere there, Papa was mentioning that. The reality and unreality. Papa used that word. Somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in the purport, I'm trying to look out for that. I've seen it. So Prabhupada says, yeah, a fool does not know the implications of reality and unreality. So unless the divinity comes to that level of spiritual self-consciousness, that pure consciousness that is being described cannot be understood. Krishna Kata, as beautiful, as transcendental, as liberating it is meaningless to one who has not come to the spiritual conception of life. Krishna Kata is only appreciated, attracted to those who are liberated souls. And that is why in that 1854, which we read earlier, Lord Krishna told Arjuna, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, na Sushati, na Kankshati. The same thing he told Arjuna in chapter 2, in the Sita Pragya verses. When Arjuna was asking in text number 54, Arjuna said, "Oh Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak? What is his language? How does he sit? And how does he walk?" And in text 55 to 58, which is the Sita Pragya verses, Krishna explained to Arjuna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Oh Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of desire for sense gratification, which arises from mental concoction," that is very key, which arises from mental concoction, and when his mind is thus purified, finds satisfaction in himself alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. And when he attains that, one who is not disturbed in mind, even amidst threefold miseries, or elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and God, and is called a sage of steady mind. So Krishna explains same thing that he said in chapter 18. He already told that during chapter 2, Sita Pragya verses. So the state of God consciousness is expressed irrespective of whichever external identification that one identifies with. The moment one comes to that platform, it's just like the example of gold we say. If one has the knowledge of gold, it knows gold. Whether the gold is under the earth or wherever it is, immediately because he has that knowledge, he can see it. I hope that helps.
Yeah, yes. Except that Srila Prabhupada said something which maybe you can help explain. But for example, in the United States, there is this thing called separation of the church and the state, where people do not want religion to be taught in schools. And Srila Prabhupada, one time he was giving a lecture in one seminary in Melbourne, Australia. And Srila Prabhupada said, lots of states are saying that all states should be secular state. In other words, no discussion of religion, no discussion of God. So Srila Prabhupada likened such states to be animals, because animals do not discuss God. Now, as true as it is that when we do not discuss God, we become animals, it also becomes a problem if only one religion is allowed to be discussed in schools. If Hinduism is not discussed in schools, if Buddhism is not discussed, if Islam is not discussed, and only Christianity is discussed, how is that going to help the others who are of different faith or different religious background? So again, Krishna Katha. So I am thinking that Krishna Katha, of course, hearing about God must be there, but it may not be very helpful if it is done in schools, because the teachers may also have their own agenda or their own preferences and trying to condemn other religions. So I don't know, what do you think about what Srila Prabhupada said and what I am also saying?
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Of course, let me say this. I'm not in any way trying to contradict what Srila Prabhupada said. All I'm trying to say is that if Krishna consciousness or Krishna Katha, God must be discussed in schools, how best is it going to be done?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. The primary first thing to understand in your question is that when we talk about religion, I've written a paper on this same subject, and I come from the Western understanding of religion to be able to deal with it. The primary first thing is that when people are talking about secularity or non-secularity, they don't even understand what that means in relation to what is religion. Because in the Western world, when people talk about religion, in most of the cases, they are talking about doctrines. There is a clear difference between the definition of theology and doctrines. According to English language itself, theology is the study of the nature of God, and doctrines is the study or a set of beliefs. So when people misunderstood, or when they try to put doctrine and theology at par, irrespective of whether it is Hinduism or Christianity or Advent, then there becomes a confusion. And that is why a government, non-secularity, does not mean that it should not be involved in religion. Like you rightly pointed out, quoting Srila Prabhupada, the moment religion is taken out of human existence, human activities, then it becomes a doggish civilization. It becomes an animal civilization. And so therefore, even the #1 country in the world today became #1 of the world country because their principle was based on godliness. America was formed on the basis of the principle of in God we trust. So the existence of godliness cannot be taken away from any society, and that society will remain humane. So, but when people are talking about religion, most often times they're talking about doctrines as or conception or perception of religion, not theology. And theology is the teachings about God, and that teachings of or the subject matter about God, which can be related to what you are describing as Krishna Katha, is something that should be taught everywhere, in every institution, in any educational institution. When theology is taught, it talks about God and his existence, and God, from all whatever background we're coming from, is subject matter that is unlimited. The moment someone tries to cage subject matter about God to some form of limitations, automatically it loses the meaning of the word religion. Religion cannot be attributed to any subject matter that has a limitation around it, because God, which is the subject matter of religion, is unlimited. And that is why Srila Prabhupada will often quote that 6th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Chapter 2, Bhagavad Pranitam, that the principles of religion is only given by God, because religion simply means the order of God. But when we talk about Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and whatever names that we give to them, they are just some doctrines according to the perceptions of the teachers that propound those philosophies or teachings. Christianity is a teaching of God based on the doctrines taught by Christ. And Christ himself was very clear. And I often quote that in the book of John 12. Jesus Christ said, if I have yet many things to tell you, you cannot bear them now. He knows that they have no level of understanding to be able to understand them. And in the Quran, the same concept is mentioned. So every doctrine has its beginning and end. But religion has no beginning, it has no end. And that's what I was trying to explain earlier on. So when we talk about secularity, those who talk about secularity and not being involved in religion means that they are actually ignorant of the real meaning of the word religion. According to a Krishna conscious person, religion does not mean a doctrine or a faith or a belief. It's not something that can be changed. One can change from Christianity to Muslim to Hindu to Baha'u'llah to Ekanka to Buddhism. These are doctrines, faiths. They are beliefs in God according to a particular teaching. But when we're talking about religion in its essence, it transcends Christianity, Islam, or Hinduism, or whatever name that we give to them, because that is the pure consciousness in relationship to the original consciousness, God. So that is religion. That is the order of God, which can never be changed, which can never be separated, which can never be absent in any civilization. The moment that is absent from any civilization, then it becomes an animalistic society. So those who preach secularism without understanding of the meaning of the word religion in itself, or dharma, as the very scriptures describe it, duty. Religion is not a faith. Majority of Western theologians understand religion to be faith, but religion is not faith. Religion is the subject or the study about God, while doctrines are beliefs according to a particular tradition as propounded by the frontier of that particular tradition, whether it is Jesus Christ, Prophet Muhammad, we even have the Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy, which essence is God consciousness, interestingly.
Well, Hare Krishna, thank you. Madhavan Prabhu, please, you may unmute.
Okay, let me off my video. Maybe my audio will be better.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Nice seeing you once again. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Especially how you explained the theology and doctrine or secularity. I think when people make a proposal that religion should not be taught in school, I think the reason will be, when you allow people come to school with different religious backgrounds. So if care is not taken, there will be clashes of ideas and things like that. So maybe that's why in some places they may advise that matter of religion should be taken out. But if matter of religion is taken out, I agree with you that theology needs to be taught. At least you have to teach that, and when you teach theology, that gives the children the opportunity to know about all the religious processes, including Hare Krishna also. Because if you talk of theology and you do not get the level of talking of Krishna consciousness, which is the ultimate. And so if they teach theology, the moral standard, the moral status will be there, then if you take them above the level of animalism, like you said, like Papa said. So, and even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna made a statement, says, Savadama Parisaya Praja, Mami Kam, Sanam Raja. He said, abandon all the varieties of religion, even though he has propounded the principles, but those principles are standard principles of religion. So it's not telling us. So he said, Mami Kam, Savan Raja. Mami Kam means me alone, so you should surrender. Me alone, that aspect is there. And again, when Jesus said that I'm the way, the truth, and the life, you know, he's speaking in the capacity of a guru. You can't get to Krishna without having a spiritual master. So he's speaking in that capacity, and ultimately it's to lead you to Krishna consciousness. And I believe one thing that the opportunity we have as Krishna devotees, we have the opportunity to enjoy the Krishna Kata, but which, if all the impersonalists or other religions will not have the opportunity to relish. And then also, but in other religions also, there are some different incarnations of Krishna that manifest, and they also try to follow. But I'm sure it cannot be as relishable as Krishna Kata itself. Hare Krishna. That's my
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Madhvan Prabhu. Actually, there is also another illusion that we need to clear up. Sometimes members of the ISKCON movement sometimes thinks that belonging to the Hare Krishna movement makes you a beneficiary of Krishna Kata. That is not true. Because every Jiva Atma is born with 4 defects. Is illusion. His tendencies to make mistake. He has cheating tendencies. He has imperfect senses. So even when one joins Hare Krishna movement, it can still be an illusion. One has to become Krishna conscious, not being Hare Krishna conscious. Hare Krishna conscious is sometimes, and this is a too thin line, because when you say Hare Krishna conscious and Hare Krishna movement conscious, there are two different things. When one belongs to an organization like ISKCON movement, and that is why Srila Prabhupada said in the purport to chapter 10 Bhagavad Gita, I think that's 10:10 Bhagavad Gita, that one may be opportune to be in a bona fide spiritual system like Krishna consciousness that offered on the platter Krishna consciousness. But if one is attracted by desire for sense gratification, it's not in Krishna conscious. It's a karma yogi. And one is attracted to gyan, to knowledge. It's a gyan yogi. It's not necessarily. And there are different levels of, even when you even come to bhakti, there are Kama Mishra Bhaktas, those who are in Krishna consciousness, but then their Krishna consciousness is not come to transcendental platform. And what is being discussed in this verse we're treating today is that this Krishna Kata is the remedy, but one cannot release, one cannot connect to this Krishna Kata unless one transcends the 3 modes of material nature. And that is why Brahma Bhuta Prasanna Atma Nasu Shati Nakanshati Samasabe Shubhukti Mabhaktim Labate Param. Only at that point, when one has come to this transcendental platform, only then Bhakti, which Krishna Kata is part of. Krishna Kata is one of the links of Bhakti. But one cannot attain that level of Krishna Kata. One cannot hear Krishna Kata. One cannot release Krishna Kata until it comes to the transcendental platform. And to come to that transcendental platform, one has to go through the process of sadhana. To get Krishna sadhana, one has to accept a guru. That's what Krishna told Arjuna. You have to accept a guru. And when you are accepting a guru, how do you get a bona fide guru? It comes from the sincerity of the individual souls. It's a systemic progress. And one has to be fortunate enough, after being freed from the disease of material infections, then one can come to a state of pure consciousness, and then he can release Krishna Kata. Krishna Kata is so glorious that if we start discussing the subject matter of Krishna Kata, we cannot end it, because it's ever. And that is why we see that the verse of Bhagavad Gita we read yesterday, we read it today, is still fresh. We get some new meaning. And it's because it's nature of Krishna is ever fresh. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Salika Prabhu. Anyone else with something to ask or share? Well, thank you so much, Salika Prabhu and dear devotees. Okay. Dr. Hassan, please, you may unmute. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Grace. Please, can you accept my respectful obeisances? All glory to Guru Dev, all glory to Prabhupada, and all glory to the wonderful and wonderful devotees. Thank you for the wonderful class. Unfortunately, I've been in and out, so I did not hear all, but I think what I heard is going to help me to understand many things. Thank you for the wonderful class. One thing I've realized is that initially, I think there's a lot of things which the people who are preaching to us about religion, maybe they did not know, or they were not open to us. Because right now I've seen a lot of Muslim women preaching, and they are preaching in English very nicely. But before, they said that the Muslim women, they go to school, they learn the Western life, and they do a lot of haram. If you look at the Arab countries, it is very, very, very difficult to see men and women association. But in Krishna consciousness, we have that, and there's no problem. The Arab people, they have the belief that if somebody commit adultery, the whole family, nobody is going to marry in that family. And if your sister gets married, the gold you are going to use they're brought to her is what the brother is going to use to get married. So this is not in Quran. It's their culture. But they implement all this to us to make it like we are doing something which is haram, which is so confusing. You know, recently there's some sheikhs who are preaching, and there's one man in Ghana, I don't remember his name. He said that even Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he was doing sports with the wife. They were doing sports, like they pray together very romantically. But all these things, they make it like haram, which people use to maltreat the woman and intimidate them. But those people who are speaking about this now, those sheikhs think that they are preaching something which is blasphemy or something. But this is not blasphemy, because it's true. How can somebody has a wife and he cannot play with her? He's a prophet, but at the same time, he's a human being. So there's a lot of things which is the religion, initially they give it to us, which make us even fight against each other, especially Muslims and Christians. Isaac and Ishmael, they have the same father. They didn't fight, but Muslims and Christians, always they are fighting. Always they are fighting. So thank you so much for the enlightenment. It will help a lot of people, and it will help us to understand so many things in religion, because the religion is different and culture is also different. Even this American, I don't remember his name too, because sometimes I come across these things and I try to store them, but later I don't find them. He was saying that even Prophet Muhammad said that we have to give religion to the people, but you don't have to give them your culture. You know, because we have all the world, every country has its culture. You have to give religion to them to know about God, but you don't have to force them to do what is your culture. I think that is what is bring a lot of misunderstanding and discriminations in the region. So thank you so much, Your Grace. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Dr. Zan, for your contributions. It is interesting. It is not surprising in Kali Yuga that you see all these kind of things going on, because in Srimad Bhagavatam, 12th canto, this has already, in the second chapter, it has already been predicted that persons in spiritual position will be ascertained mainly according to external symbols, and on that basis, people will change from one spiritual order to the other. A person's propriety will be seriously questioned if he does not earn a good living, and one who is very clever in juggling words will be considered a learned scholar. These are the direct words from the Srimad Bhagavatam. So in this age, it is not surprising in this age of Kali to find all of these kind of things that people in a conference recently on the roles of religious leader in peace development in society, and I was giving me. I said the major challenge is the role of religious leader, but the challenge is that we have so many religious leaders who are not religious. Religion is capable. Religion is a catalyst for bringing about social justice, peace, and harmonious society. But I said the problem that in today's world is that we have religious leaders who themselves are not religious, and you cannot give what you don't have. You cannot give what you don't have. So therefore, the reality is this, that in this age, it is not too surprising. It is not too surprising that you find that in every tradition, people are there who will claim to be religious leaders, who will claim to be speakers of the truth, but they don't know anything about religion in itself. So being religious leaders or wearing the garb of a religious leader doesn't make one a religious person. So the symptom of a religious person is that he lives the scripture. The scriptures manifest in his character, in his words, in his lifestyle. That's what makes a religious leader. Thank you so much for the comment. I think we have to round up here.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. So thank you so much, dear devotees. And we're going to humbly request all the devotees to kindly unmute. And we all chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our appreciation to our speaker, His Grace, Salika Prabhu. Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Rama Hare Hare. Vancha kalpa tarikishta kripa sindhubhaya vacha Kitananda Vishnu Nanta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Ki jai.
Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Gaur. Hey,